When you go to the metro area, I'm actually waiting for a lot of results. And this is maybe where that the majority.
Exactly. It's 100%.
I ate a lot of it. There's a little bit of orange and that orange is something working down just. So we're waiting for some of the results. We can take a look at some of them. Kingsway, Don Davies, meeting right now. There's a lot of votes that counted in Vancouver Kingsway. What about Vancouver East? One is by 10 votes. They have few votes. And this would be a bit of a surprise. I'm expecting it to stay by. It's been there since 1993. Unlikely to be taken down tonight, but right now she's trailing. That's probably well, watching that closely, Eric. Thank you, Eric Renier, had the results for us. Listen, as we keep an eye on the bottom line, again, repeating, Canadian Press, which is our declaration, they have declared a liberal government, but we're also keeping an eye on where the leaders are running right now. We have two riding results to share with you, beginning with the riding Carleton. This is in the capital region.
Socialist entity. So it's surprising to me that percent results for the NDP is shocking. So obviously we'll see a new NDP leader that obviously would make a difference in the future, but not tonight. Sure, you're talking about leadership, but you're focusing on the NDP leader. Let's talk about your own leadership. What was it about his leadership right in this campaign that people said choosing differently? Well, just remember, he actually grew the base of the Conservative Party. He tonight delivered a vote that won us the majority under Stephen Harper. He's grown the base of the party. So the progressive vote has completely gone to the Liberals and NDP completely collapsed. I do think that Jackie Singh has to take some responsibility for that.
The Conservative election party headquarters
He wasn't able to. President, I'm going to let you jump in, but I wanted to say something that you know,
Convention Center in downtown Ottawa.
Fine, but who could stand up to Donald Trump? The leaders imagine that we were going to have this. We were talking about now, which is we've got to look at how do we unify country, let alone unify what's coming from south of the border.
On the rejection of Trump, like about picking a leader, they felt that Trump. And I mean, again, the one party to going down for and now everybody gets in. It's very important. I think that why it's not going to be as significant.
Thank you, Debbie.
Not only that, it's nice to be about the we're coming from London. But I think also
He would not be the first party trying to win an election, going all over the country, and the stakes are so high, and the leaders. It's one of the most important things. So the leaders going out and trying to help all the other candidates with theirs. It's hard to be in two places at once. So Fangio and the Liberals have been working for about 2 years to try to win Friday. And I can remember us being crazy. But now the closings of the race is unbelievable. So I think this riding is one of the whole country with the highest, which I think the Liberals are doing. That crazy ballot though with 91 people on it, and that's the part that I'm worried. I'm just looking at there's only just a few people reporting that there's almost 8 other people who have votes, and if this comes down to something really tight, and all these votes have been peeled off by this ridiculous 91 person ballot. I think that's exceptionally disappointing, and that I think that's it's democracy, obviously, counts, but it is probably not the intended result. Okay, and then 600 down on that.
results we have is very, very fragmented. So it's something doing the category oriented, right? Yeah, because it's a very, very long balance.
That riding, the ballot's 2 people. And a lot of people were struggling to unfold it, let alone read all 90 names because you really had to search it through.
When you vote, the ballot looked like a book when he was putting it in.
Well, in fact, this could be back a little bit, the ballots were so large, and they had to keep stuffing them into the box because they occupy so much more space. So we'll see how late that actually goes to be declared, but right now, we said percent on the liberal leading rather in the riding problem. But let's bring up right now the riding time because we can't Mark Carney has been elected into that. The first time elected as a member of parliament, this is riding right beside here, probably up riding in front. But leader, not right now, presiding over a liberal leader by getting in front. The announced here this. So, you know, I wonder if we could bring in the things. Also on Van, Cambridge and Malachi, one of the fastest growing riders in terms of population in the country. I've talked to Alison McGregor about that a few times. He's incumbent, leading by a little bit over the Conservatives right now. And holds for 48. Let's take a look at Vancouver right now. We have these are all NDP seats right in the heart. In fact, let's take a look at Vancouver, Fraser View, South Burnaby. For Mayor Greg Robertson right now, with just one polling, is leading in Fraser View. We have no results in Burnaby Central. You know, we just declared Mark Carney elected. No results right now in Burnaby Central. That's Dudley Sings riding. Down south, New Westminster, Burnaby, Mallardville. Peter Julian is the incumbent. He's won 7 times, but he's after 2 polls in, he's in 3rd place right now. And Don Davies is the lone Democrat that is leading right now in downtown Vancouver. Don Davies is up at 43%. So that's our first look. Some potential change. South Surrey White Rock, here the Liberals, 2 polls right now are leading on the incumbent Conservative Carrie Lee Fick. The Liberals, I'm trying to think if they ever won South Surrey White Rock. If they have been a long time. That would be something. Over Langley City and we'll stay back to you.
David, thank you. Lots of votes still to be counted out there in BC. Let's go to Neetu Garsha, who is in Burnaby at the headquarters of the NDP. And Neetu, at this point, we have on, by our count, the NDP leading or elected in 9 seats, translating to a big decrease in seats. Even though the Bloc sees a decrease as well, their significance in the House of Commons just went up by a whole lot.
And so the question now for the Liberals is, you know, who will be their dance partner? They'll walk together, reach across the aisle on major initiatives. And this is, you know, Canadians are basically saying, obviously, the domination of Donald Trump, make it, fix it, you know, fix the situation, show us you can. And everybody's here today. And this is see very soon. So please do your schedules. Right. The situation, of course, you know, it's a very interesting development.
Right now, but a very narrow lead. We're talking about 4 votes with 50 ridings, riding full reporting in that riding. Mississauga East Huntsville here from Zeka right now, narrow lead over Eda Kang, the Conservative candidate in that riding. One more close race here. This is Newmarket Aurora. This is Jennifer McLaughlin over Sandra Trump. Kabina, leading by about 100 votes there, a little bit over 100 votes. So keeping a close eye on that. And then one more riding here, this Edmonton North, the riding Edmonton North, Vin Farrow leading over Karen Stintz. Karen Stintz, very well known in the Toronto area, local politician in that city. But there you have close race on Virginia in the greater Toronto area. And of course, the GTA will be a very big play in this. Always has been. Ontario will be at the votes have been 122 seats. You actually reacted when Eric was talking about the service overperforming. That's correct.
Yeah, I think it does quite big. Just the variance in the software election. So I just really want to have the word there. Perhaps some of us can't get to that majority number. So we'll see if that plays out, but that does drive, you know, opposite to the polling trend of the election. So that's an encouraging trend to perhaps.
We have in the 9 right, although I didn't see any right now. What did you feelings about what's on there right now? Yeah, it's the more that corridor, but it's hard in London.
So with, right now, it's kind of not there yet. But lines with another, the liberals are on 163. If I do my math correctly, 163 plus 5 is 132. And I think it's something like that. Even though.
Exactly. He didn't look worried at all, did he, Mark Carney? And that's because he knew exactly what was going to happen. He didn't care how big the shares were. He didn't care that it didn't matter how big the shares were going on. And by the way, the mainstream media was absolutely downplaying here. Rally. They were doing their best. It should have been the big story about all these crowds coming to Pierre's rally.
That is a large territory, play it shorter than what I think the liberals were expecting this evening when they looked at the poll applicants.
Absolutely. We've certainly seen.
As a matter of fact, I'll call out one reporter, Mackenzie Gray. He would pop up Carney's rallies, make it sound like it was big and, you know, big thing. But would downplay conservative.
But looking at this, yeah.
He worked, Mackenzie Gray was global.
Coming the end of the night and not quite at that majority line.
We should protest. We should.
In that case,
There should be a nationwide protest demanding, saying that there is absolutely no interference. There's no way on God's green earth
this is going to
that they want. Again,
very
let's look again. It's, I mean, all you have to do is look at the facts. It was the Liberal government during COVID. It was Trudeau and all the mandates, all the madness of COVID. And we had the Freedom Convoy, and we had Canadians to a pulp by police, and who knows who else that was called in during the Freedom Convoy. People's bank accounts were frozen. People who weren't even part of the convoy were still devastated at what happened. Then,
Right now, let's read the national.
the Emergency Act,
Just seems illegal next to the bottom line that we're looking at.
Unconstitutional, which they're appealing.
Excuse me, the.
Then you have the mass expense. Trudeau spent more money than all prime ministers.
I'm gonna ask you to also get together for me if it's possible, leading elected in the province of Alberta. We've talked about, Ontario, we've talked a little bit about British Columbia, and certainly talked
Then you
about.
have
This is the leading
all the
elected
scandals
right
of
now
Alberta.
in
There's
Alberta.
something like
With the conservative.
$1 billion
elected
of money
19 ridings
during
leading
COVID times.
the
They
Liberals right now.
disappeared.
leading
They don't know what happened. They don't know where it went.
Australia, Alberta,
And
the,
it's not accounted for.
research.
I mean, it's a scandal.
And thank you for joining us once again. So we were talking.
510 apps,
Again.
millions and millions and millions of dollars shoving up to two guys. We live just near, we live on the west end of Ottawa. By the way. They live in a small space.
What stands out to me in my mind right now is a platform release day. So in the last.
Two
week
guys
of
that lived in the
campaign,
basement.
The platform.
Of a cottage on the Ottawa River.
Coming out just.
You know, half hour from downtown Ottawa. Got
But I
paid millions
really stand out
of dollars. Trying to- That's just an example.
Platform release day.
Example after example of corruption. Then all of a sudden, Mark Carney, you remember Mark Carney came in, he was gonna be an advisor again, even though he wasn't an advisor already. He was gonna be an official financial advisor. And then all of a sudden, poof, out of nowhere, because of pressure from within the Liberal Party, Trudeau resigned. Mark Carney is already here, he runs, and he's top WEF forum. Guy.
Real sense
I mean, give me a break. No one knows who Mark Carney was. He wasn't even living. So a guy is now prime minister who hasn't even lived here for the last, what, 10 years?
What happens tomorrow?
Canada voted for a guy to be prime minister that hasn't even lived in Canada for the last 10 years or more? I don't think so.
May not form government. So still waiting to hear official word from the campaign about the reaction to this and what's happening, but a much different news.
Yeah. So Canadians voted for a guy who wasn't even living in Canada.
Headquarters.
I highly
In,
doubt
I'm
that.
gonna bring in financial correspondent, Amanda Lang. A couple of different things certainly stand out here. First of all, I think that the economy more broadly, for a lot of people, it's been cost of living, and that's just been in 905.
Cost of
The
living.
areas around Toronto.
So the party that destroyed Canada economically, that's the party that people want in Canada.
At the same time, see.
There's really that many Canadians that believe the rhetoric that, you know, Carney has to fight Trump, and Carney's got to fight Trump. This is all about a war against Trump, and he's going to save the country financially. He was the economic advisor for this in the first place. And that's what Canada wants. Not a chance. Not a freaking chance.
Sean Fraser makes paying for some of the passage there. To me, very interesting. I mean, if you pay attention to right now.
Absolutely. they do. Actually, we found out this week that the Globe and Mail is an official media partner to the Century Initiative. You know, right about that. Century Initiative get us to 100 million people by the year 2100. So they're an official partner of the Century Initiative to help. It says officially on their website to help spread their message of putting in more population together. So media is buying it for.
Support from another party for that, and that party might have spending plans on them. Let's remember. So what was already sort of a big spend facing down the tariff fight, trying to talk about the economy and economists say they will do that, might get it to an even bigger and more costly spend as we look down this.
And then as you're speaking, we just had the results for Central Nova. We saw a little bit of a seesaw for the Liberals, the Conservatives, and we're now able to get the incumbent Sean Fraser. He's going to be reelected in his riding of Central Nova. So despite early lead from Bryce Jenkins, the Conservative, we know that Sean Fraser will be winning there.
So mine in Windsor right now. The conventional wisdom was to collapse the NDP vote. But if the Liberals and the NDP both are strong second and third, the Conservatives could come up the middle. That may be what's happening in those areas. And just going back to the GTA, I know this was a concern up in the York region here, was that the NDP vote dropping would help the Liberals run up the score in the downtown Toronto core where they're going to win just by larger margins. But there were not really many NDP votes gained in a lot of these 905 outer areas. And that would just, you would have a full sense of how vital were those ridings, and you would see Conservatives with the blue. So the Liberals still early in Ontario, but vote inefficiency not playing in their favor as they were down double-digit seats in a province that pollsters from start to finish had them up double-digit points. Right?
That again speaks to what we're talking about, how the popular vote and the efficiency. Nothing is working as it normally would in an election. That's what happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Donald Trump obviously disrupted this entire election. I mean, the U.S. president makes about 400,000 less a year. The Liberals should probably do that, given the way that it's helped them throughout this thing. But you know, until we get sort of the urban vote in mass numbers to know exactly how the cities of Canada are going to vote and the suburbs are going to finally vote, and of course British Columbia, it's hard to know if they're going to get there. But the vote efficiency that has helped the Liberals in the 2019 federal election and win the 2021 federal election, despite losing the popular vote. At this stage, we're not yet seeing that. We're starting to take back up from 161 right now. Then, and the Democrats and the Greens are up. That's a majority. You got a big vote. But you know, that's a whole lot of work that still needs to be sorted out.
Okay, thank you so much for that, David Crawford. If you're just tuning in, we have that call a Liberal government with Mark Carney as Canada's 24th Prime Minister. He also has been elected for the very first time in his life. Here, we are waiting to see whether it's majority or either now. So results projected results. Maybe that will help us get there. Indeed. So we're looking at a projected elected, the only one that is a flip in Ontario so far. That is Toronto St. Paul's with Leslie Church. Again, the only projected elected flip for the Liberals so far in Ontario. Wouldn't it be interesting talking to Leslie Church? Why don't we do that? Let's talk to Eli Blaster. He's in Toronto St. Paul's with Leslie Church. Hello, Eli. So we are here in our room crammed with volunteers.
Parties work together and, you know, effect the change because we are in a critical crossroads in this country, as we all know. Hannah Butts is standing by with some more data, some more context. Hannah.
And so, Maria, we're looking at perhaps
what parties Nick might actually end up helping, the Liberal. But we'll take a look at our host projections. And this is again, how we got to where we are right now in the evening. The CTV decision desk projecting that the Liberals could see a range of seats anywhere from 154 to 167. So not reaching that, magic marker of 172. The Conservatives could get anywhere from 138 to 152. But then looking at the block, and the NDP, NDP only getting anywhere from 9 to 15. This could really play out into 6 months.
Yes, a significant setback. The NDP, and the big question is, will the bloc the balance of power in the next parliament? And what does that mean for the Federation, for Mark Carney and his government?
Certainly an interesting story playing out here. So the numbers are coming in, but we still have some really close races. We still don't know for sure all the MPs yet. Of course, who will be heading to Ottawa. So we're going to zero in Ontario, and we're going to look at the 905 area. For those of you not in Ontario, that's the area around Toronto, the outskirts. And we're looking at Brampton right now. There's some pretty tight ridings here. First, taking a look at Brampton Street, Kismet Park.
Yeah, this is all going to come down to organization. It's basically street by street, block by block. It's going to be interesting to see whether the Conservatives can take it over or the Liberals.
Just an 81 vote difference there in that riding. Brampton East Liberals in the lead, but just 221 votes split.
And I think this speaks on the ground game. The Conservatives are probably hoping they can pick up a couple of Brampton seats.
Okay, and this one, Brampton West.
Yeah, this is for the Liberals. So just think of the Brampton basically in play. A handful of votes could make the difference.
Absolutely. Bridges just north of Toronto. And the Conservatives in the lead by 982. But the incumbent, the Liberal, in second place.
Yeah, you know, this is good news for the Conservatives. This is potentially going to be, you know, there's basically nowhere, and the Liberals trailing.
Okay, and let's go over to Markham, Unionville. We'll see what it's looking like there. The Conservatives in the lead by 510.
Yeah, this is traditionally has been Conservative in the past. So this is good news for Pauline on this one. But, you know, all of these races are fragile right now.
Take a look at another one, Richmond Hill South. Still in that Toronto area. It's an hope in the lead right now, but another Liberal incumbent trailing.
Yeah, you know, a bit of a company for home on this front, even with 115 polls reporting. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, the advance polls, how that actually plays itself out.
Okay, a couple of close ridings, close races in the 905 that is around the Greater Toronto area. For now, we'll send it back to the National Newsroom.
All right, thank you so much. You can see again the floor, the ceiling there, the max at the CTV decision that is projecting to 167. So about 5 seats shy of the 172 majority we had in fact called for a Liberal minority government. That's an interesting results that are coming actually from the 905.
Very much so. And I think reflective, again, as I mentioned to Amanda, of the challenges of affordability and the degree to which uptime, that is not what they were hoping for. What's happening to the writings? Let's look at New Market. This was the second slowest margin of victory from the Liberals. Last time they hoped they would be on to it, they are not. Let's look at Brampton. I spent a lot of time in Brampton. Even though this is economic gaps, everybody there talks about affordability and crime. We're very, that may explain some of what you're seeing. Service. One more I want to look at here, still we sold new stuff. Projected that it would be very close. And yet with only 40 people supporting, conservatives have to leave there. End of the night, we're talking about liberal minority and not. Okay, that's right. Thank you so much. I should tell you the 5, but we don't have any information yet at all. No data. But you can see the 2 greens on the board there, just to give you a sense of who those are. Not first projected elected, but center. Whether those hold, let's go with the though now.
Brooksy County is slow in a lot of the British Columbia ridings, but I do want to take a look at what it looks like at this point. Keep in mind, a lot of the seats in British Columbia are not projected to be done, to be elected. It's still in play. 3 each, and that's the sense of the look at some examples of what's leading to the potential sea change, Langton Township, Fraser Heights. What's interesting to me about this is John Outlet used to be, and running again here, is how his share of the vote has just soared. It's gone from 30% in the last election in this riding to 48.3%. And so it's something expensive. They have almost exactly the same support right now. It's early in the know because they did in 2021. Some of it's the ADP, their votes collapsed from almost 20% to just 5%. Vancouver Kingsway, if you know BC politics at all or follow the NDP closely, this will be really surprising. Don Davies, a long-time incumbent in second place. It's only a lead of 13, but we'll keep an eye on Vancouver Kingsway. Interesting to see that result. And pretty small. Votes in a lot of the British Columbia ridings, but you see the incumbent Wilson Meow in second place in the Conservatives right now. It's small, but still interesting lots of churn in these early counting moments in British Columbia.
Lots of close races. Too. Those races are wide. Definitely moving back and forth so dramatically. Why we are have elected here right now. 156 candidates, 170 for majority. Conservatives taking up 28. A lot of things still moving. That means that we're going to take our time to call what kind of government and end up with by the end of the night. You know, we don't know minority or majority. That's all it has.
Yeah, let's look at some places where the numbers are starting to firm up in this particular.
It's a three-way race. The Liberals are ahead of the incumbent Bloc. The overall, that the Bloc are leading in the 24-25 seats. So they have a lot of seats, but they're looking at the possibility of holding that balance of power. We'll go over that on.
Patricia? I was thinking, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, is being elected in the next door in Carleton, so sorry to say, in this round. They started to trickle in, and then the other ones. So the Liberal evangelized the lead over Conservative leader here.
Oh, crap. Oh, crap.
Not necessarily being who the other is in front.
Opposed and looks as carried on. These numbers are very, very close. The NDP did collapse and has been evidence from the Liberals. If those numbers change, of course, there's so probably not. I think this is, I often see, probably enough time now to figure out what the answer is. I think he wants to stay with the Conservative Party. That's what it's done in many circumstances, which is to
Get to say when there was a liberal minority and you didn't have a 20-point lead.
yeah. So, but there's been so much tension inside the party, the accusations of campaign malpractice against Mr. Polyev. I think basically say Canada started to conflict. And so at the same time, we're also seeing tension. In the event that we ended up with a majority parts of the country, so that which is very much on regional lines, I do think that situation polarization. Some people that was not fair, not making it appropriate. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we might get a situation that one part is in charge and that's it. And then the other
That's interesting because if you look at the figures, the feeling of unity is not being reflected in the current set of results. Most, they're very exposed to the Conservatives. That's not something we expected. We didn't expect them to over the top.
Yeah, just because their team didn't win, doesn't mean they want to bust the country or tip over the home and operating. Preston Manning, I think, was irresponsible in what he did. I think he helped the Conservatives. I don't think he's reflective of national sentiment. I reflect of the majority sentiment in Alberta. There are many crap things for the passport. Same with Monsieur Lanchat, Canada's artificial construct. I mean, I think that helped pull votes to the Liberals. So the national important national union crisis manufactured by Preston Manning, potentially Danielle Smith. So you can say 17. And I think probably most of them. Probably does to a lot of Canadians too. Just because your guy doesn't win, woman doesn't win. That's the projection and aspiration of it.
And then we need results. Provision for starting with Lori. So really quickly get that. Quickly from being a leading bank to like represent. Let alone in a different lens that isn't other time.
Talking about the Quebec electorate, you look at the province, what they really needed tonight. Was Quebec take away those 9 games and you're.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna.
Because we're still waiting. We still have that one thing there. The teacher that cost, yes, the Trump factor, but it was the Jeff White, yes. The popularity campaign. If Quebecers not being so literally opposed. The Quebec is also not bad. And the Liberals would not be sitting with, and not a very,
Not a very, we'll see where that goes, but if you see that kind of tight, when any words minority, it's that tight. My gosh, that's not a very stable time for anybody. David, that's something we're talking about.
So Rosie, I think the political science that we have parliament help. What's happening right now is the stories in Ontario, folks. I mean, look, the Liberals have been projected to win the most seats here tonight, but they are down in Ontario, not just below where we thought they needed to be to the path of majority. They're just a lot of it's going conservative. So we've seen the conservative movement into
Numbers are going up, numbers are going up. So Liberals at 155, Conservatives at 151. Liberals at 155, Conservatives at 151. Bring it home, 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 bring it home. I do this. Bring it over. 152, 152, 152 conservative to 154. Let's bring it go. Let's bring it go. 154 liberal, 152 conservative. Things are getting better. Things are getting better. Things are getting better. 154 liberal, 152 conservative. Two seat difference right now. 2 seat difference. 154 liberal, 152 conservative.
Something crazy to the empire. Over the last number of
Let's go. Let's go.
At Sunrise headquarters.
Let's freaking go.
There's still a few numbers away from it's like one, but it's from either as well. Still a little bit shy. Bench. So that's the later folks.
All right, we're gonna look at some particular items here. Right. Elizabeth May, the incumbent there, and she has the
Yeah, your prayer, pray. Literally pray. Jake Meat's done. Jake Meat lost his seats. Jake Meat's done. I just said they don't think the NDP has 11 seats right now. They just said they don't think the NDP is going to hold the 11. The 11 is going to get wiped out. If the 11 gets wiped out, that's for the Conservatives over the Cyclists.
Okay, and one more. Carlton, this is the first results we're seeing, or I'm seeing at least from the running. Elliott is running tonight. Fanjoy, working hard to take this seat. Elliott has been elected 7 times in a row. This is early.
We can really say how weird that is. I can voice it kind of like whatever you say. But it's watching it. Because I mean, there are a lot of public service in that, right? And, I think we need to wait there.
Okay, David, what are you looking at?
I wanted to come back to the GC and talk about close races that you guys got done at the time. In the Brantons and Mississaugas, and I've been saying this forever, if you really want Brantons,
That seems right now. It's 12 to get the right status. They're gonna have no trouble negotiating steps anyway. Because they don't. I don't know.
We started going to do that much to watch Western name. Going to be any better than what we just had for the last 10 years. I'm wondering. Bullshit on the phone with Columbia right now, except in those calls, wondering maybe. We are not going to be in a coalition with them. So, I guess that's, Carney and Pierre Polyev are going to have to work together. They're going to have to figure out where they have some common ground. Dave.
But I mean, I appreciate the discussion that we're having regarding that departments, right? I think it's just right? Canadians have needing parties to work together because we have a threat for us. And I think it's very important that I've known Mark Carney. He's not the type of person just when I placate and say it's not about dealing with the most fundamental threat and to be honest, so this is about working together. We have 3 years working together, right? So it's coming upon us that now that we working together. So he's the right person.
Okay, but they say you're a non-military for essentially from the party he is looking. So when you're talking about a minority government like this takes politics. You know, people come from outside of that, they get chewed up by the years. So how would we continue to break it again to one thing to our party? The challenge we also have to say Liberal Party is always been a coalition. Voters that supported. So it's got the challenge of dance party with the conservatives on the one hand. And then the dance party side happening down in the base from the Liberal Party again, where he's got to find his way to reach his economic goals, which I think is when there are people inside his party who might not be, super supportive of.
Course of 36 to 48 months in your life, you got like, you have to prioritize, you have to look at the nature of the problem that's in front of you. You can make your problems for you are legislative, what you can do, by governing council, we can do through partnership processes and do through budget implementation act. So it's a prime minister in minority government. It'll be incumbent on Prime Minister Carney to say, these are my priorities. And before he puts his priorities up there, do proper consultation and recognize that he doesn't have a majority of the House. He doesn't have a majority of the popular vote. He has an obligation to respect the Democratic mandate that's expressed to the entirety of Parliament and work with others in order to get things done. He is correct. Prime Minister Carney is correct. But the biggest challenge that Canada will have, at least in calendar 2025, probably for the next couple of years, it's the threat of the abrogation of the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement with the United States, the imposition of tariffs, and the belligerence from the White House. He can find willing partners in good faith in the Conservative Party in order to do certain things that will give Canadian products to global markets to mitigate the risk of Donald Trump's threat on Canada. Conservatives acting in good faith, Liberals acting with open minds and good faith can get a lot of good things done for the country, but it requires people to come together for Mr. Carney to come forward and to be prepared to do that.
Okay, so for those of you who know, Mr. Mully, then Canada First and Canada Strong work together. Yes, but let's say this, I think what we're going to need is for Mr. Carney to come a little bit further to the center, because right now, as you said, he's got that basement full of left-wing socialist voters. I just got him there. I'm not going to share anybody. Paraphrase.
Yeah.
For instance, his platform was spending that's ever did. He also has two higher industrial carbon tax and a order. So when you look at tax increases and big spending, I think many Canadians want that. Definitely no conservatives want it. So maybe he can back away from some of those things. We're here on some of those things.
Romantic or maybe it's one of my favorite quotes in politics. It's remarkable what you can achieve. Right? And just to make the purpose of Parliament is to alter the Canadian risks that is President of the United States. Today is joking about the things that first say our country, amongst our Prime Minister. If the threat against Canada, the President of the United States is enough for us to work together, you don't do.
I think Solomon is a survivor of the 2011 orange wave, and has won it again election after election. This time it's been a bit tougher for him this time. Jean-Sébastien Fernier is an unknown in writing. It was the Liberal Party decided to appoint him as a candidate. He wasn't well known in the writing. And they sometimes should have won much more easily, but he has been re-elected nevertheless. You can see the results. So the answer to a question, Michael.
We were wondering whether or not he would actually hold the writing. But I was not sure who would show me it very impressively, but the Liberals taking that seat in York is not significant. And we have about that. Regina, they were hoping to pick up us. Regina wants Canada. We also foresee that it comes as the net showed us and your shares results of no surprise here and share waiting for the time the class of 2000 time as your Paulia as 24-year-olds waiting here for Andrew Shearer with us we believe momentarily. Yeah, it's a bit surprising and disappointing I think at the same time.
Yeah, guys,
They did so well in the provincial election, putting up
what I would pray?
provincial results.
I would pray that December,
But that's to translate, literally, these federal,
provincial NDP are really aligned. And that showed it, right, the results, that 13% drop in the share of the vote for the NDP, very significant. The Liberals think you have a lot of second places across the province, which is a surprise here in Saskatchewan. All right, I thank you very much for laying the landings.
Ian, let me show you what's going on at the bottom of your screen there. That is a whole lot of nothing definitive, basically, 157, leading elections for the Liberals, 149 for the Conservatives. Lots sort of sticking around that number.
Ah! Woo!
So we are waiting to better sense of what kind of government Mark Carney is new mandate when he is elected by not just one leadership. That is the headquarters where there was a lot of excitement. Government, but right now,
Better than, 1575, but Lisa Harris, she was in a close race last time around. Lost. This time.
Longueuil, Saint-Hubert. Won, about the same number, 338 votes between the Liberal and the, incumbent Bloc Québécois.
One of the pickups of the Liberals it's actually where the Liberals have done some of the most effective work is in taking up seats in Quebec from the B2.
They keep fluctuating, so the numbers right now are 156 Liberals, 149, 25 Bloc, 10 NDP, 2 Green.
Graduated as an economic student, so.
But it keeps fluctuating. It went up to 152 Conservative, 4 Liberals, and then it keeps bouncing back and forth about 3 or 4 seats. Liberals are confirmed.
So there you go.
Not a smooth, at this point.
But
All right, David Aiken, what are you looking at?
Let's take a tour through some Western Canadian cities, because some interesting results there. Right now, I've got Winnipeg up on the screen right now, and that's the one little NDP got Winnipeg Center. You can see the Democratic incumbent. It's a little bit ahead of the Liberals. The Liberals did hold this in 2015. It often is the Democrat. Pat Martin was the long time Democrat in his riding. So we'll see what this goes. So keep an eye on it. Conservatives doing relatively well. And again, Winnipeg Center. Let's take a look at that. Winnipeg West might be a pickup for the Liberals. Winnipeg West, Doug Olson, an emergency room doctor who was the MP. He got beat by Marty Morantz. Now they're back for another rematch, and this time the Olson is up. He's up by 2,000 votes and 140 votes reporting. So Doug Olson might be feeling comfortable keeping an eye on that. And then in Kildonan, St. Paul, the Phil Dan Show, who is the public safety credit for the Conservative, tight race. I just want to take a look. We have, as you can see, some real changes. Taking a look at as the polls came in, and so it sort of flattened out a bit with a small lead for Phil Dan Show there. And then this is a loss. This might be a loss for the NDP in Elmwood, Transcona. This is another rematch of a by-election. It was a by-election and later dance won for the NDP against Colin Reynolds. Colin Reynolds is ahead right now. Reynolds is not a leader in his private sector. He's an electrician. And we don't hear Paul get a lot of attention to private sector gigs, laborers, you name it. And this Colin Reynolds is one of the poster guys, if you will, for all the other conservative stuff is there. So that's what's going on in Winnipeg. Let's get over to Alberta. Let's take a look at Calgary. Right now in Calgary, the only Liberal we've got to all, Calgary ranks is losing right now to the Conservative. Not by much, 344 votes back with 45 polls in. Now, this Friday, Calgary Confederation, this part of Calgary hasn't voted for a Liberal since 1940. It's been a while. But right now, Troy Logan is the vice president of the University of Calgary, and that's University of Calgary is this right, is 169 votes and Jeremy Nixon in former MLA. So Nixon used to run for the UCP, now it's going to be a CPC, and he's a little bit behind that. That would be a historic win for the Liberals. That's Calgary Senate. Greg McLean, the bilingual conservative incumbent, is a little bit behind Lindsay, Lucas. So there's some close races in Calgary, potential pickups for the Liberals there. Up in Edmonton, not so good for the Liberals. Liberals might be expected to win at least two. Senate and Edmonton Southeast. And that's not happening right now. Edmonton Senate, the Conservatives are ahead by 110 votes over the Liberals. And in Edmonton Southeast, where Martin Selby is running, he's voted a couple of times and votes back. Jackson Singh Hall in Edmonton Southeast. That would be a big victory for the Conservatives who are worried there might be something going on. And in Edmonton Strathcona, I would put this as maybe the second or third state. NDP and the reverse from their foreign affairs committee. She's 757 votes up on the Conservative. The last non-NDP to hold this riding was in fact the Conservative, was Ricky Jaffer. Some may remember that name. So that's what's going on in Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg. So we choose the results there with all parties sort of making some gains or not making some gains. We'll see how it all plays out. Lots of votes still to be counted on.
Thanks. And you can see the Liberals and Conservatives, excuse me, the numbers at the bottom of your screen there. Keep flipping around. Right now, they are 12 points apart. I got that math right, yes. And the Liberals hovered about 160 for a while there, but keep it up. As I said it, it went back up. So, Eric, you were looking at the gains and losses, where parties. Let's do your swing meter. What do you see?
Let's have a look, I guess, first of all, at the Conservatives. And when we talk about this, for the Conservatives to form government, that's that number we're talking about. For government, the likely number was 27. That's a combination of their gains and the reason they're not as close to forming government based on our swing meters is they have gained 19, but the Liberals have also gained 7. So you have to take those 7 off of the Conservatives gains, takes them back to 12. Well, if they're at, they're at 12 where they are right now for a total number to get towards government of 27, they're a long way from being able to form government. The Liberals, on the other hand, are also a long way now from where they want to get to, which was to form a majority. Right now, that one they don't have to worry about the Conservatives. They just have to pick up a bunch of seats and win them against whoever to have enough gains to get to a majority. And we said they need a gains of 18 total. On balance, they've only picked up 7. They've gained 28 seats, but they've also lost 21 seats. All of those are to the Conservatives. So they've lost a massive rise to the Conservatives. A lot of those are in Ontario, places